Howdy friends, hope you're well. We'll get started here in just about 30 seconds. Just had a solid little drop, lots to check in on. Broader market to check in on. Elon Musk, 9%, $3 billion stake in Twitter. Twitter's up 30%. Tesla's looking at all-time highs, 8% away. And we'll get started in just a moment. It's 2 o'clock. Let's start. So before we get into the charts, we've got another free ebook, and I'll drop the link right now. It's about exit strategies and information on different exit strategies, and going to try and keep pumping out a free ebook a week. So check that out if you're interested. I'll put the link in the comments and description of this video after it's done being live for all of you who are not watching live in the future. All right, so we've got SPY. So broader market first. Daily higher low is set on S&P 500, and we're now looking back up at the all-time high. So I'm still looking at the broader market from the perspective that it's possibly lagging Bitcoin by a day. Bitcoin started daily consolidation 1 day in advance. Bitcoin set the daily higher low a couple days in advance because of the weekend. I had a bullish lean on stocks the second half of Friday into today because Bitcoin set its daily higher low off EMA 12. It absolutely impacted my trading of stocks, and it allowed me to position more bullish. I took a lot of my short exposure off the table on Friday because of what Bitcoin was showing me with its daily higher low set. So now the question is Bitcoin dictating? Bitcoin just set a daily lower high, as we will look at in just a second. Does that mean the S&P 500 should be looking for a daily lower high to form tomorrow? We'll see. That's certainly definitely something I'm going to be keeping a close eye on. But for now, it's a very strong stock market day. And this is the biggest difference that I can recall in recent memory between the crypto space and the broader market. Because right now the S&P 500 is up 0.6%. The NASDAQ here is up 1.7. So we're seeing a good bit of green. It's really big tech that's having a big day in the stock world today. So Apple's up 1.8%, Amazon 2%, Netflix 5%, Facebook 3.7%, Tesla 6%. So there's a lot of green out there, and there's a lot of red in the crypto space. So they're definitely doing different things today. And it's notable because this is the biggest difference between the two sectors on the same day, probably in at least the last 2-3 weeks. That's about as far as my memory goes these days, as far as charts are concerned. So looking at Bitcoin on the daily time frame, our daily lower high is set, and we have a tightening range forming, and now the bulls must hold 44.2 thousand to continue this equilibrium. So we've got our high, our low of the pullback, our lower high, and now we're scouting anything above 44.2 to be a higher low. The bulls definitely want to continue to hold daily EMA 12. We've back tested and held it multiple times now. This would be the 4th time. And we are watching for the 4-hour downtrend to be our guide. We know the bulls have to regain the 4-hour trend for a daily higher low to be shaping up. We know the Bitcoin conference is Thursday and Friday of this week, so 3 days. We're keeping an eye on that for any potential headlines that might come out of there. But for now, in the short term, it's clear that the bears are playing a lot of defense and they're winning. So what do I mean by that? Well, if we zoom in, we can see that we had a bull break yesterday into the end of the weekly candle closing that saw 0 follow through and dropped off. And even if you zoom in, you can just see the bears defending resistance. On the 5-minute time frame here, we topped out on this bounce, tried to see continuation of the bounce, and just a clear rejection before rolling over into oversold conditions. So the hourly right now is approaching oversold. We have a lot of space for an hourly lower high to be the result of this bounce. It was nice that the bulls gave us a second chance. And what do I mean by a second chance? This big bounce. So when we last checked in live streaming, it was a bigger pullback than we were anticipating in terms of the hourly RSI getting a lot more crushed, and watching for the 4-hour oversold conditions. We knew on this bounce, the most likely scenario was a 12-hour lower high. So no matter how early you were playing the hourly oversold bounce, we got back above that level, because this is where we first hit hourly oversold, and we got back above those levels. So when that happens, again, it's important to know what's the most likely scenario. And on that bounce, we know the most likely scenario is to scout for a 12-hour lower high because of the size of the pullback. that's a second chance to reposition or to say, uh-oh, I was a little bit too early. I need to take some off. And that is something that the bulls could look to do. I did a little bit of maneuvering within the 12-hour tightening range, but Saturday morning, Bitcoin bulls that got in too early or are more conservative and are less comfortable with the daily higher low attempt positions are looking to take some position off into the possible 12-hour lower high. If we are to trade sideways most of the weekend, which we did, and aggressive bulls say bring it on. So that was Sunday or Saturday morning as our 12-hour lower high was shaping up. I personally have lost clarity on the short-term time frames. The hourly looks clear, drop. We know we're looking for an hourly lower high next bounce, but the 4-hour and the 12-hour have lost clarity for me. And usually that means scout a megaphone, because I am very familiar with pretty much all other patterns. And usually when I have no idea what I'm looking at, it's a megaphone. So I'm keeping an eye out for that possibility, but we would have to see the bulls bounce from here. And this would be what I would be watching. So if we bounce from here and hold this downtrending line, and we got this uptrending resistance line, so we can see 3 touches here of resistance and maybe 5 touches of support. We'll see where this hourly candle closes that did just start forming. So again, we do have to see a short-term bounce initiate here if this downtrending line is going to continue holding. But this is just a visual guide. Again, not anything that I'm acting on, but keeping an eye on this. The most important time frame for me from here is the 4-hour. So it did see a lower high and lower low, and we know the bulls must regain short-term momentum and change the 4-hour trend if a daily higher low is going to shape up. If not, if 44.2 breaks with any kind of follow through, it's a confirmed daily downtrend into weekly consolidation. And we'll then be looking for a weekly higher low to try and form. But that will clearly show us that bulls have lost short-term momentum. And that will also increase probabilities that it's a possible monthly bear flag here in terms of the size of the bounce retracement that we've seen so far. So a loss of the daily uptrend is only the first baby step to indicating anything on the monthly time frame. But again, probability needles, if we confirm a daily downtrend from here, probability needles of a monthly lower high will increase just a little bit. So something we are obviously paying close attention to. Looks like we're finally getting some more significant weakness in the stock world that has just been grinding up all the last 3, 4, 5 hours, less than that, 3 hours. But right now, QQQ is dropping into hourly consolidation, and we can certainly say Bitcoin is not positioned well for that as we are testing those lows. So it's been a bearish correlation between Bitcoin and the broader stock market pretty much since futures opened on Sunday night. All right, the dominance chart is bouncing on Bitcoin, trying to get a daily bounce going, and it's essentially just seeing altcoins dropping harder than Bitcoin on this pullback. And we will be scouting a daily lower high to be the result of this bounce. Knowing, big picture, we are scouting a weekly higher low on the dominance chart. So we'll need to see a daily trend change shape up back to the bulls. That's not going to happen anytime soon. It's going to take a while. We need a big bounce. We need a higher low and a higher high. But we know that we're keeping an eye out for signs that a weekly higher low is shaping up on the dominance chart as it continues to tighten up in this almost a year-long pattern at this point. Ethereum, 4-hour support is being tested at 34.13. Even if that level holds, the bulls have to be cautious of a head and shoulders then forming. And it does appear that daily consolidation is shaping up here. If that level breaks 34.13, daily pullback underway. EMA 12 support then comes into play. Hourly RSI is approaching oversold. So looking like we're on the verge of rolling into daily consolidation on Ethereum as well. ETH BTC is staying strong. Daily perspective here, higher low everyday pattern over the last 8 days still. So that pattern has to break. And again, Ethereum bulls are liking the fact that the BTC pairing is remaining stronger than the US dollar pairing, because that obviously helps this pullback be less significant. But keeping an eye out for daily consolidation on the BTC pairing, just as we are on the verge of seeing daily consolidation begin on the US dollar pairing. Sol. So Sol daily consolidation is underway, and 4-hour keeping an eye out for oversold conditions. We're not close to that happening. We are close to hourly oversold conditions. Keep in mind that for individual altcoins right now, that if you're looking for, say, first hourly oversold on Sol, it's not the ideal environment to be looking for that bounce, because Bitcoin is obviously seeing a lot of short-term weakness, and that can lead to more extreme RSI levels on individual altcoins. So for me, that would just mean smaller position sizes or more picky. Maybe instead of making an entry at 30 RSI, I make an entry at 27 hourly RSI. But just, we need to have that in our brains firing off saying, Bitcoin's not trading sideways right now while this Sol consolidation is taking place. Bitcoin is seeing a lot of weakness, and that can drag things down to be more extreme. With regards to the Trader Pro system here, I want to highlight daily super stacks. So this is Sol, daily super stack firing. And again, the super stack is when you have overbought or oversold conditions on a bunch of time frames. If the daily is firing off, that tells you the daily, the 4 hour, the hourly, the 15 minute, the 5 minute are all in extreme euphoria conditions all at the same time. This signal, the daily time frame, does not fire often. And whenever it fires, we want to be paying a lot of attention. So this one for Sol, the 4 hour super stacks fired a couple times on the way up, and they led to some consolidation, but they didn't mark the top. The daily finally fired, and that is marking the top, and that is marking daily consolidation clearly underway. So keep an eye out for daily super stacks. I mean, honestly, if you want to break it down as simply as possible and do the least amount of work as possible, look at the Bitcoin daily super stacks. So it fired back a year ago when we were down in the mid 30s. We then run up into the 60s, overboughts fire. We then dump down into the mid 30s, the oversolds fire. I mean, if you're just trading daily super stacks for massive long-term swings, it's going real well. So these signals are good on longer term time frames. And again, they can be good indications for profit taking or scaling into some significant fear. And again, they're not marking the bottom, but they're certainly telling us when it's time to be looking in a certain direction. And again, free promo on Trader Pro, code free trial. We're going to keep running that for a few more weeks. So check it out. Sol BTC daily consolidation underway at the same time as the US dollar pairing. Hourly oversold at the same time. Hourly stair-step waterfall pattern with a lower high every single candle for the last 11. So some traders use those as signals. But we know we're scouting daily higher lows on Sol, both pairings here. It's just a question of how much pullback do we see before those daily higher lows are set. And again, Bitcoin is going to dictate it. The question is Bitcoin going to set a daily higher low, or is Bitcoin going to confirm a daily downtrend? And that's obviously going to significantly impact what we look for short term in these altcoins. So looking at the rest of the three musketeers, again, it's Sol, VET, and ADA. So checking in on, I'm going to drop a Trader Pro link in the chat real quick. So checking in on VET, looks like this double bottom on the 4 hour time frame is just barely holding still. So keeping an eye on this level. It's been a nice 4 hour equilibrium, pulled back just under resistance, trying to hold support. If we fail to hold support and that bear break occurs, daily EMA 12 is not far behind, but that will, again, it will distance us further from the recent high, and it will increase probabilities that weekly consolidation is shaping up. Keep in mind that the coins that have seen big bull moves the last 3 weeks that have come off the lows, and these three musketeers are all some of them, we will need to see weekly trend changes confirm if this move is going to be significant on the monthly perspective. So just looking at Sol, yeah, monthly high or low is set. But again, if we're looking at the retracement size of this monthly bounce, if we're going to see a 50% plus retracement and try and form a monthly equilibrium, we will eventually likely need to see a confirmed weekly trend change for follow through. So again, we have to keep in mind all of our time frames. I'm looking for a monthly high or low. We got it. But if that monthly high or low is going to see follow through, a weekly trend change has to take place eventually. So now we're just watching, along with Bitcoin, is weekly consolidation shaping up here and now? So VET, we got the triple bottom here being tested, and the BTC pairing already broke bear. So again, that was a little clue for the spotlight fading. This break right here, we had the support, when we broke right here to a lower low, the US dollar pairing held support. So it was just the first little clue. Okay, the BTC pairing is showing us a little bit of relative weakness compared to the US dollar pairing. So need to pay a little bit extra attention. ADA, poor ADA was just, I loved the tight BTC pairing here, and it was just ready to go. We knew that volatility was coming, just poor timing. The breakout took place right into cryptocurrency sector weakness. And for a while, it just meant that ADA was not pulling back as much, but we just rejected from resistance here. 124s was a little double top, and look where we topped out. Now it's a triple top, and that essentially led to a hard rejection. So bulls had relative strength. All right, here we go. We're testing resistance. BTC pairing with the bull break. Bitcoin dumps, crypto sector dumps with it, and a clear rejection from resistance. And as soon as that happens, again, bulls and bears alike, that is as clear a signal as you can get. A double top within a fraction of a penny, and very quickly leading to a sell-off. And that relative strength that we had for a brief amount of time very quickly was lost over the last 4 hours because of that double top rejection. Again, everybody sees it from a mile away. Everybody's looking at the same level. So that hard rejection into Bitcoin weakness, just an easy setup for bears or for bulls to bail. So now for ADA, again, same question, daily double top. Are we going to see a bear break of 110 and start weekly consolidation, or can the bulls keep those daily higher lows going? So we do still have a bit of space to work with, but a very hard rejection from resistance. And the BTC pairing, again, didn't break the daily level. Both pairings pretty much rejecting from the top of the recent daily move. But the BTC pairing is still stronger than the US dollar pairing. Need to set a 4-hour high or low pretty much now. Luna. So Luna, daily consolidation is underway. And it's always worth drawing some rising wedges. Again, they often break bull in strong environments, but just something I'll always keep an eye on just as a visual guide. And this one's no different here. But what's most important to me is the BTC pairing, but it's for this weekly bull flag, trying to see a new all-time high on the BTC pairing. So the daily got overextended. We went straight from the low of consolidation into a 9-day bull move. So this pullback right now, there's no red flags for me as long as we hold daily EMA 12 on this retracement. If Luna BTC can form a little daily bull flag here and then confirm the daily and weekly bull flag at the same time, that's going to bode very well for the US dollar pairing. Again, there's a lot of ifs with this setup because what's Bitcoin going to do? Is Bitcoin going to lose the daily uptrend and start weekly consolidation, or is Bitcoin going to set a daily high or low and then tighten up for the week, giving the possibility of an eventual bull break? And the BTC pairing here, I'm just going to check in on it every day and watch to see, is it giving any red flags or is it healthy daily consolidation? Because again, if this daily bull flag confirms, we are knocking on the door of all-time high BTC pairings, which will mean that the US dollar pairing will very likely be knocking on the door of new all-time highs as well. So as long as Luna USDT holds 98.51 to keep the daily uptrend, and the BTC pairing doesn't give us any major red flag on its daily pullback, again, I'm just using EMA 12 as my visual guide, then keep an eye on Luna because it is still positioned well for the bulls overall. That can definitely change if Bitcoin starts weekly consolidation, but in this moment, it's positioned well enough to definitely still garner our attention. Using a lot of unique words today. Another pairing that I keep checking in on, Sand. So Sand, we got a tightening daily range. Again, I'm just watching this long-term falling wedge because Sand is looking to do what Sol just did. And Sol, so Sand BTC, Sol BTC monthly. And let's just go back and forth and back and forth. They're not exactly the same setups, but they're very similar. Pulled back for 3 months, monthly EMA 12 support, pulling back for 3-4 months, above monthly EMA 12 support, but trying to set the monthly high or low. And if you look at the US dollar pairing, it's the same thing. We're tightening up sideways, holding EMA 12, trying to set the monthly high or low. So again, this is just the kind of setup where I check in on it every day. There's nothing actionable for me in the short term. but I know I'm keeping an eye on it. And honestly, if I don't have a position, which I don't, I would want to see a bear break here into weekly consolidation. The tighter, the better. Tighten this equilibrium up, pull back, set a weekly high or low, and then I'll look for an eventual bull break after that. And Sand BTC is weaker, but that's what I'd be keeping an eye on. And Mana, same thing. So I'm watching Mana and Sand, but they're not doing anything that has me interested right now, but they are doing something that has me know that I will be interested at some point in the fairly near future, sometime over the next couple of weeks. So watching for rotation into those names eventually, but there is none yet. And the Sand BTC pairing is going to be a big guide for me. Who else? That's about it off the top of my head. We saw Doge react this morning to Elon Musk and Twitter news. That was short-lived though. Looks like we gave back all those gains. All right, I'm reading the chat room now. We'll go here for another 10 minutes or so, a little bit shorter than usual. Got to get back to the stock world and make sure things are okay and make sure my positioning is good. Looks pretty good. Thanks to Tesla. Tesla's been making it easy the last few weeks. So checking in on waves. Again, whenever I'm looking at a coin, I know what Bitcoin is doing. So I don't need to look at the US dollar pairing of the individual altcoin, at least initially. I care more about the BTC pairing, and it's worth scouting for a daily high or low here, but I can see that waves has lost a significant amount of momentum. We know that even if we set daily high or lows from here, we've got tons of space for a daily lower high to be the result of this bounce. 4-hour oversold conditions, we're getting crushed. Again, this is a perfect scenario where we were already beat up, and because Bitcoin saw another leg down, we're now reaching extremes. If you want to keep it simple, find a short-term time frame that has been rejecting the price consistently, and that level breaking will be a first indication of a bounce. You can also just use stair step. Again, a lower high every single hourly candle for a while now, and we know that we're not going to bounce at all as long as we keep setting an hourly lower high every candle. So that pattern has to break first. And both are absolutely crushed. I mean, if you like oversold bounces, this is definitely a time to be scouting a bounce play. This is the kind of name where, you know, if I'm watching it and stalking it, I probably enter too early for an oversold bounce play. But if I check in now, okay, we're this crushed, I'll look to give it a possible test. I'm not going to. I'm too busy and too much else going on. But with where those hourly RSI levels are, we know that an hourly bounce, even just looking for a lower high, is likely coming sooner rather than later. But Bitcoin's got to find a bottom. And again, these bears have been ruthless over the last, it hasn't even been that long. The bears have been ruthless on Bitcoin since that big upper wick candle. And it's been less, it seems like it's been a lot longer. It's been what, 24 hours and change? Not even 24? Right around 24. Coming up on 24. Seems like it's been a lot longer than that. But we can see Bitcoin trying to shape up a 5-minute bounce. So keeping an eye on the more beat up alts to bounce more significantly if Bitcoin can get an hourly bounce going. Caps lock requests multiple times is a sure way to get yourself booted. How do I manage to scale into positions on lower prices? Again, on YouTube, I've got 7 years, 7,000 videos. So everything is answered in depth in the video, how I scale in to how I trade crypto breakdowns. That gives all the in-depth of how I played the bounces. As far as scaling up, averaging up, I do it way less often. I will do it in swing position mindset. So for example, the position that I have right now in Bitcoin, the larger than average position, I've got half of my account in Bitcoin looking for the daily high or low. I will exit if the daily downtrend is confirmed. The amount of dollar risk that I will take on for that is acceptable for me. And it was initially I was willing to risk all of my crypto profit on the year, which was 25% of my capital gains on the year because stocks where the majority of my focus and money is with no fees. But now things have shifted a bit. It won't be as big a loss if we break that low, but I have half a position and I will add on a position averaging up if Bitcoin tightens up on the daily and then breaks bull. But I don't have confidence to average up at this point because we can very easily break bear with the current setup that Bitcoin has. So it's the kind of scenario where I do it infrequently. But for example, Tesla is the best swing. I don't know how I'm going to top this swing position in 2022, but entry from the lower 800s. And what is my style right now? I will average up if we see hourly oversold conditions. We just formed a daily bull flag and I was close to averaging up, but we never hit hourly oversold, so I just backed off a little bit. But I am comfortably profitable and I will average up if we see first hourly oversold condition, because it's a back burner at this point. We've bounced 50% plus. All-time highs are in the equation, and I will look to play an hourly oversold bounce. And with my style, I would play the hourly oversold bounce on Tesla with a day trade larger size position. I would exit half into the bounce. I would stick my stop under the low for the rest. And if that sees continuation, I've got a larger position size. And if it doesn't, I stop out, break even. That is my style of utilizing my day trading skills to position for swing trades. At what point will I look to hedge with SQQQ again? I constantly am hedging. I've got a hedge on right now. I am constantly shifting my exposure probably 3 to 6 times a day. I'm shifting to bear lean to bull lean based on shorter term time frames. And I have some SQQQ exposure right now from this slow grind up day. Maybe an hour or two ago, I started adding back some SQQQ because I really liked where my stock account was. Because of Tesla and Facebook swing positions, I know I'm not going to sell those positions, so I need to protect those gains in case we see hourly consolidation. So constantly adding and subtracting short exposure. And that's the other thing. It's so difficult to share my trades with crypto and say, I'm doing this on Bitcoin, because it is a piece of my macro puzzle where, right now the gains that I have in my Tesla Facebook swing positions are accounting for a third of the total loss that I could take on this big Bitcoin daily high or low attempt. So I don't like when people try and follow my trades, because you're not doing what I'm doing to the degree that I'm doing it. You can, do one position of what I'm doing, but I've constantly, I've got 4 positions open, then I've got 6 open, then I got 3 open. I am maneuvering on a daily basis. And the reason that I'm willing to risk a good chunk of crypto profit in 2022 is because March was a great month, most notably in my stock account. So I'm just risking profits. And I know there's somebody out there trying to do what I'm doing that doesn't have profits, on the year and doesn't have that cushion on the year. And if I were break even on the year, I would not be taking this trade. So that's why I really don't like some aspects of being public about the trades that I am taking, because again, it's more complex than people give it credit for. It's not just one trade. I've got 5 trades open right now. You got it, Piper. Appreciate the support. I would love to see equilibriums going into the conference. I have been surprised, and maybe they'll be right. I have been surprised at how bearish crypto Twitter has been with the fact that Bitcoin is in a monthly, weekly, and daily uptrend. Maybe that daily uptrend's about to be lost, and maybe the bears will be right. But this is the kind of environment, I think it's the fundamental backdrop is really what it is that's keeping people from being overly bullish. And again, maybe they'll be right, maybe they'll be wrong. But if you told me Bitcoin was in a monthly, daily, weekly, and daily uptrend, and that 3 out of every 4 posts that I've been scrolling through have been bearish on crypto, maybe it's 3 out of every 5, more than half of the posts that I am scrolling through are bearish the crypto space right now. And again, it doesn't align with the trends. So it's got to be the fundamental backdrop and people just being in disbelief. And I know right now, the stock market world, I've just been watching disbelief from fundamental traders all the last 3 weeks. And the fact that Tesla right now is almost looking up towards all-time highs still has people in disbelief. So I love the fact that everybody's bearish, because if everybody were bullish, I would be way uncomfortable in a bullish position right now. What I would love to see is a daily high or low and a tightening range into the conference. I mean, your ideal scenario is any kind of bullish news catalyst that squeezes out the shorts that have been formulating their positions over the last week and triggers FOMO, because what crypto Twitter is telling me is that a bunch of people are bearish and a bunch of people have cash on the sideline. And the BTC sentiment at this point in time is probably right in the middle, not really fearful or euphoric. So I like that setup for another leg up. Because again, if everybody were all bulls, I would not be expecting another leg up. It's just a question of, can we form a daily high or low and trade sideways? That's one question. The other question is, do we get any kind of catalyst out of the conference? And again, bears can absolutely be right. But I would have expected things to be more bullish with the trends that we currently have. I mean, to break this weekly sideways range bullish and to be back testing the previous resistance levels with healthy retracement size, again, I would just expect people to be more bullish. Like, okay, I missed the breakout. I didn't think that was the monthly high or low. Here's my second chance to be making an entry on this consolidation. But that's not the case. That's not what we're seeing. That's true too. So Brian says that most of his CT is extremely bullish, and it's definitely, it's I forget the word I'm looking for, but it's biased based on who I'm choosing to follow or unfollow and who someone else is choosing to follow or unfollow. So it's definitely not a complete scope. But I've seen plenty of times where my feed is extremely bullish and now is not one of them. It's almost as bearish as it was when we were within the weekly tightening range. Is it too late to establish long-term no-touch positions? If looking out 5+ years, it's never too late. Dollar cost average. For me, I establish long-term no-touch positions in significant fear. So if the S&P 500 hits weekly oversold, again, look at SPY. What happens when the weekly RSI hits oversold? It's a great time to go long, historically speaking. What happens when Bitcoin hits weekly oversold? Hasn't happened in a long time, but it's a great time to go long, historically speaking. So that is my trigger, but someone who is less of an active trader, dollar cost average. Just if I have $10,000 I want to put into Bitcoin, spread that out over, if that's going to be all that I'm going to put in, spread that out over a year plus and just buy a little bit every month, the first of every month, dollar cost average, to establish a longer term position. Or do half of it, DCA, and then save half for the next notable fear environment. I had a friend message me back here when daily was oversold. Is this a good time to be looking at Bitcoin? And my answer was, buying during fear is definitely the time to be doing so if looking long term. Could Litecoin give us clues about the Bitcoin monthly high or low? I do not believe so. I don't think Litecoin's doing anything but trading weaker than the majority of other altcoins, at least the ones I'm following. That may change, but that's what it is. Yeah, a lot of people watching the 200 period moving average. Is it better to own Bitcoin or MicroStrategy? I personally would rather own Bitcoin and have access to it 24 hours a day. If I hold MicroStrategy and Bitcoin drops 10% on a Saturday, there is nothing I can do. I do not ever trade BITO or use it as a hedge. If I am ever going to hedge, it's the miners. I trade MARA, probably the most out of any crypto stocks. V-shaped bounce on QQQ. Hourly bull flag attempt. Tesla, high of the day. How is Bitcoin responding? Did that help Bitcoin find a temporary bottom? Not like the bulls would be hoping. Maybe, but again, still it's just a consistent bearish correlation. And with what today is, Monday, and knowing that we're looking out towards Thursday, bulls really need to shape up this daily high or low soon, because we are only 2.5% above our key support. And it would be brutal to confirm a daily downtrend right into some kind of bullish news. The news that I am expecting to come out of Strike, I mean, Jack Mallers has given plenty of clues that he is going to be announcing merchants being added to the Strike system. And his clues are indicating that it's going to be some well-known names. Now, the unknown is, does Apple have anything to do with it? Is Apple buying Strike? Is Apple going to partner up? And that's the big rumor, really. So I'm anticipating really likely that merchants are going to be announced, but anything that ties Apple and Bitcoin in a headline is what would be the home run news reaction. So if we don't get that headline with Apple, then we might see a little bit of a bullish reaction with Strike announcing, some merchants, but it wouldn't be significant in my opinion. So the key for me would be, can headlines put Apple and Bitcoin in the same sentence? Because then the media runs with it. And anything less than that is like, okay, that's good, but it's not like, oh my God, FOMO. So that's what I'm looking for as far as headlines out of the end of this week. It's entirely possible that this is a monthly lower high. Again, we are going to get probabilities on a daily basis to shift. And if we see a daily downtrend confirm, and if the weekly retracement on Bitcoin then gives back 50% of the move up, these are things that will increase probabilities that a monthly lower high is quickly shaping up. But again, at this moment in time, we are in a monthly, weekly, and daily uptrend on Bitcoin. Any tips against stop hunting? Use smaller position sizes and give more wiggle room. And that's part of the reason that I did sell a little bit on this Bitcoin 12-hour bounce. Because if I sell partial, if before my stop was 44,000 breaking, I can then put a lower stop for the same dollar risk because I have a smaller position size. And that's another reason why I'm not adding and going, real aggressive with a full position size, because as soon as I do that, my stop loss has to come up in terms of keeping the dollar risk that I'm willing to take capped. So fluctuate your position size to allow for fluctuation of stop loss levels. Can I elaborate on wrapped coins? I am not that guy. That's for a fundamental channel. Coinbase definitely lets you use stop losses. Coinbase Pro does. If you're not on Coinbase Pro, you need to be instead of Coinbase. I keep an eye on GBTC, but not closely. I used to look at it more. Waves is still not bouncing. This is a ton of weakness. That looks like a blow off top. We're not going to hit that high anytime soon in Waves, in my opinion. Again, that Luna BTC is still real strong. As long as that Luna BTC is strong, Luna has my attention. All right, I gotta go. I appreciate you all tuning in. Trader Pro free trial, one more link drop. Check out the free ebook for exit strategies. Free stuff, free trial, free ebook, free. Hope you have a good day. Do good things. Bitcoin key support. Bulls must change the hourly trend at a minimum to have confidence that a daily high or low can try and start to shape up. And if bears confirm that daily downtrend, that's definitely a short-term win.